Hello, welcome to Learn at Home program. I am Elo, Director Elo, a mathematics teacher, and I will be taking you on the topic equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions. Now, when you look at the word equivalent fractions, you imagine, what does this really mean? You may be used to the word fractions or have a little idea of the word fractions, but what about the equivalent part of it? What is equivalent, or what is equivalent fraction? Now, equivalent fractions, when one fraction is equal to another fractions, we say they are equivalent fractions. If one fraction is equal to another fraction, we say they are equivalent fraction. Now we'll look at example. I'll give you an illustration. If you have two rectangles, call one rectangle A and call the second one rectangle B. Divide the first one into two equal parts, and shade one portion of it. Divide the second one into 4 equal parts and shade 2 parts of it. Now from the two rectangles, write out the fractions from the two rectangles. What are you expected to have when you have a rectangle divided into 2 equal parts and one part is shaded? What is your fraction to that? And when you have a similar rectangle divided into 4 parts and 2 parts are shaded, what is your fraction to that? From the first rectangle, which is rectangle A, you have 1/2. That is, one portion of it or one part of it is shaded all over the total part, which is 2. So you are having 1/2 as a fraction from the first rectangle. And for the second rectangle, you have 2 portions of it or 2 parts of it shaded out of 4. So that 2 should be your numerator all over 4, which is the total part of that rectangle. With these two fractions, we can say they are equivalent fractions, because the second fraction, which is 2/4, if you are to reduce it to the lowest term, you are going to have 1/2, which is the same thing as the other part. It is equal part of it that will be shaded. So it's the same thing compared to the first one. So both rectangles or both fractions are referred to as equivalent fractions. Now we'll take example 2. The second example is, what fraction is equivalent to 1/5? What fraction is equivalent to 1/5? You think of, how do you come about this? How do you go about this? 1/5. How can you get a fraction that is equivalent, equal to 1/5? Now, you are to multiply both the numerator, the top number, and the denominator, which is the bottom number, by a single number. Use the same number to multiply the numerator, which is the top number, and the denominator, which is the bottom number. And that will give you a fraction that is equal or equivalent to 1/5. So we can do that now. If I'm to multiply 1/5 by 2, that is multiplying 1, which is the numerator, by 2, and 5, which is the denominator, by 2, your result or our result should be 2 over 10. Now 2 over 10 is equal to 1 over 5. 2 over 10 is equivalent to 1 over 5. That is, if you reduce that fraction 2 over 10, you are going to have the same thing as 1 over 5. So for that reason, 1 over 5 and 2 over 10 are equivalent fraction. That is, 2 over 10 is a fraction equal to 1 over 5. We'll look into another example. We're now going to example 3. Okay, our example 3 says, find the first 3 fractions which are equivalent to 1 over 3. The first 3 fractions which are equivalent to 1 over 3. Now to solve this, you follow the same way we solve example 2. And how do I mean by following the same way we solve example 2? Is by multiplying both the numerator and the denominator by the same number. And when you do that, you are going to have fractions which are equivalent to 1 over 3. Now we start by using 2, 3, and 4. When we do that, we have the first 3 fractions which are equivalent to 1 over 3. Now multiplying the fraction 1 over 3 by 2, 3, and 4 gives you equivalent fractions to 1 over 3. Now the first one is to multiply by 2. Multiply 1, which is the numerator, by 2, and also multiply 3, which is the denominator, by 2. When you multiply 1 by 2, you have 2. And when you multiply 3 by 2, you have 6. So for the first fraction that is equivalent to 1 over 3 is 2 over 6. 2 over 6 is equivalent to 1 over 3. What does that mean? If you reduce 2 over 6 to the lowest term, you are going to have the same thing, 1 over 3, which is the fraction we are looking for. Then the next one is to multiply the same fraction, 1 over 3, by 3. That means multiply the numerator, which is 1, the top number, and the denominator, which is 3, by the same number 3. When you multiply 1 by 3, your result is 3. And when you multiply 3 by 3, your result is 9. And that is 3 over 9. 3 over 9 is equivalent to 1 over 3. That is, if you reduce 3 over 9 to the lowest term, you are going to have the same thing as 1 over 3. Why the third one, the third number that is equivalent to 1 over 3, or the third fraction that is equivalent to 1 over 3, is multiplying that 1 over 3 by 4. Multiply 1, which is the numerator, by 4, and also multiply 3, which is the denominator, by 4. When you multiply 1 by 4, your result is 4. And when you multiply 3 by 4, your result is 12. Now you are having the fraction 4 over 12. If you reduce 4 over 12 to the lowest term, you are expected to have 1 over 3. That means these three fractions, 2 over 6, 3 over 9, and 4 over 12, are equivalent to 1 over 3. Now, after this, can you do this by yourself? What we just done. On your own, can you do it? Okay, I'll give you some work to do. Okay, I have some work for you. Find the first three fractions which are equivalent to 3 over 4. And secondly, fill in the missing numbers. You have 2 over 3 equal to a box over 9. You have to look for the number that should be inside the box because this is equivalent fraction. Equal to 10 over box. You have to look for the number that should be inside the box. We'll take a break, and when we come back from the break, we'll look into this. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to FCT learning platform.
UBE Board Learn at Home is a special digital intervention program creatively designed to complement the usual physical classroom lessons of pupils in primary 1 to 3 and 4 to 6, and also for JSS 1 to 3 students.
What are the measurements or SI unit of measuring angles? We have what we call degrees. Angles are measured in what? Degrees or minutes.
Join us between 2:40 and 4 p.m. Tuesdays to Saturdays. The television versions of the program will air on ASO TV between 6 and 7:20 p.m. Tuesdays to Saturdays on Star Times Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, and UHF Channel 38.
Welcome back from the break. How was the exercise? Did you get the right answer? What was your answer? Can we do it together to confirm whether what you have is the right answer? Okay. Number 1, we have find the first 3 fractions which are equivalent to 3/4. The first 3 fractions which are equivalent to 3/4. How do you do that? You start by multiplying the fraction, both the numerator and the denominator, with the same number. Multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 2. That will give you the first one. Multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 3. That will give you the second one. And multiply the same numerator and denominator by 4. And that will give you the third fraction. You have 3/4 as the fraction that we are considering. So the first one, 3 times 2. 3 is the numerator. You multiply it by 2. And 4 is the denominator. Multiply it by 2. When 3 multiply 2, you have 6. And when 4 multiply 2, you have 8. Now, if you reduce that fraction, 6/8, to the lowest term, you are going to have the same fraction as 3/4. That means 3/4 is equivalent to 6/8. Now, the second fraction that is equivalent to 3/4 is 9/12. How do you get that? You multiply the numerator, which is 3 by 3, and multiply the denominator, which is 4 by 3. And when you multiply 3 by 3, you have 9 as your numerator. And when you multiply 4 by 3, you have 12 as your denominator. 9/12 is equivalent to 3/4. That means if you reduce 9/12 to the lowest term, you should be having 3/4 as your fraction. Now, to get the third one, the same fraction 3/4 needs to be multiplied by 4. What does that mean? The numerator, which is 3, the top number, multiplied by 4, and the denominator, which is 4, the bottom number, multiplied by 4. 3 times 4, you have 12 as your numerator. And when you multiply 4 by 4, you have 16. Now, the fraction 12/16 is equivalent to 3/4. That means if you are to reduce 12/16 to the lowest term, you should be having the same thing as 3/4. That means the first 3 fractions that are equivalent to 3/4 are 6/8, 9/12, and 12/16. Now, the second question, fill in the missing numbers. You have boxes and numbers. Part is given, that is fractions. Some, the numerator is given, while the denominator is not given. While some, the denominator is given, the numerator is not given. Now, which number should fit into that missing position? You find out. With the fractions we have done so far, what do you think should be in the position where you are having box over 9? How do you get that number? Now, the one that is giving both the numerator and the denominator is 2/3. Now, the next one that you need to get from that is multiplying the fraction that is given both the numerator and the denominator with a single digit. So, to get that of 9, you multiply the numerator by 3. And if you are expected to multiply the denominator by 3, you see the result. So, you have 2/3 as the fraction that is given in full. Then multiply both the numerator and the denominator by 3. That will give you the second fraction. Now, multiplying 2/3 by 3, you have 2 times 3, which will give you 6, and 3 times 3, which will give you 9. So the position where you're having box over 9, it means the number that's supposed to enter that box or occupy the position of the box should be 6. And when you reduce that fraction, you are going to have the same thing as 3/2. The next one is 10 over box. How do you get the number that is supposed to be in the position of the box? You have to use 2 to divide the 10, which is going to give you 5. Meaning, if you multiply the same fraction, 2/3, by 5. That will give you that position, that particular fraction 10 over the box. So when you multiply the same fraction 2 over 3 by 5, you have 10 over 15, meaning the missing number in the position where you have 10 over the box is 15. And 10 over 15 is equivalent to 2 over 3. Now, since this is my answer, are you having the same thing as your answer in the one you just done? If that is your answer, that means you got it right. But if not, you take the correction. Now, after that, I'll give you assignment before we call it a day. Number 1, find the first 3 fractions which are equivalent to 2 over 7. The first 3 fractions which are equivalent to 2 over 7. The second one, fill in the missing numbers. Where the numbers are missing, you fill it in, just like the one you did by yourself before the assignment. Okay, number 2, fill in the missing numbers. The box over 6, 10 over the box, and 8 over 12. Sorry, it is 12, not 2. So you have 8 over 12. Now you do this. Then, if there is any question, you can reach out on the number showing on the screen. Till next time, thank you.